Well, welcome. Happy New Year. 2025 has approached us. Welcome to All Things Creepy with Ghostly Travels. I didn't hear you, honey.
Said 2025 came rolling right in.
Yes, with a lot of white death outside.
Yes.
Yeah. Terrible. I don't know where all of you are that's listening, but here in Ohio, Cincinnati, I think we probably got close to 13 inches of snow, maybe. And we're supposed to get another band come through Friday. So great. But let's go back to when our last podcast was December 17th. We had Mike and Leah River from L&M Paranormal. That was our last podcast for the year. Followed after that is Christmas. Hope everybody had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I hope 2025 is a very successful year for everyone. And I wish nothing but the best for each and every one of you. We got to investigate. Well, I went out and investigated with some of our friends, Bob Schuller and Denise West and Sean Austin. We did a Christmas Eve investigation at Randolph County Asylum, which was super, super cool. That is outside of my realm. I've never done an investigation on a holiday, so stepping it up. And then, of course, we investigated Old Blackford County Jail, and that was January 3rd, last Friday. That's a cool place. That's in Hartford City, Indiana, located a block down from the Monroe House, which everybody knows. So we had a really good time in that investigation as well. That was Patty and I, Bob and Denise, and Sean. And so that was fun. Then, of course, I turned the big 5-0 January 2nd. I don't feel 50. I don't look 50 in my eyes. But I hit it. I hit the big old hill, right? So now it's like the roller coaster. I stopped at the top of the hill. Okay. Boom. But thanks, guys, for joining us tonight. Our special guest tonight is going to be Kara Phillip, and look forward to talking to her. She'll be chiming in here about 8:10. So, Patty, you got anything you would like to share?
Well, let me think for a moment.
Yeah.
Think
away.
During our time away, as you said, there were a couple of investigations. I only participated in one. Christmas Eve, I have my personal tradition of wrapping gifts and watching. Oh no, my mind just blanked out. What is it that I watch where every time a bell rings, that one? It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life. I always want to say White Christmas for some reason, and that's not. That's Bing Crosby. What's his name? No, it's
Bing
not.
Crosby.
It is. Yes.
But also, you neglected to share that.
No, it is. That's why we have two of us here. You can fill in the blanks.
Well, there was a surprise birthday party for Mr. Allen.
Yeah, and I did not expect this, okay?
Yes.
This was on a surprise, and I really was obliviated. I did not know this happened. I was just like walked right into it. Because that day I was with our friend Dwayne, and his wife Mary Ann came over, and supposedly they were going to go dress shopping, which they did. So
we did.
And me and Dwayne, we went motorcycle shopping, just looking around, and we started up in Troy, Ohio, from here, farthest away. Then went to Tip City for some awesome pizzas. If you're ever in Tip City, Ohio, go to Tip City Pizza in historic downtown Tip City. The pizza is phenomenal. It's like eating candy. It was so good. Then we went from there to Springfield, Ohio. Then we went from there to Xenia. Then from there we went to Mason, Ohio. And we just got at the Harley dealership down there, and all of a sudden we were just getting in, and we get a group message because we were in a group, and they said RUTA for dinner is 6:10. Looked at my watch, it's 5:53. I replied back with, "Same happening here. We'll see you when we get there." And so Dwayne, I told him, and he goes, "Oh, we got to go." So we left. We got there about 6:25. The only thing that was surprising to me at the time is when we got out of the car, walking behind Dwayne's truck, my stepdaughter drives right by into the parking lot. And I'm like, And her eyes were real big when she saw me, like, oh no. Well, Patty met us at the door, and she goes, "Oh, I just invited her and her boyfriend to come and have dinner with us." So it's like, okay, well, here's my code. I'm going to go use the restroom, which we were at Pinball. This place is awesome. It's in downtown Hamilton, Ohio. They have all of the pinballs that you grew up on. Phenomenal time. They serve food. So Patty had pizza. She had cake. She had all of my true people that I adore was all there. Friend that I went to school with, Curtis and his wife, Chris and Kate down the street, my buddy John, my buddy Jim that's on our paranormal team, John's wife, a good friend that we all started to know real well, Chase from John and his wife and their little boy Joe. Then we had my cousins, Jerome and Dee, and their spouses. And I love these people, Andrew and Felicia. Andrew works with Patty. So they were with us that night. It was a great time, so thank you so much for that. And so I did not hear you.
I was very pleased that you were surprised because
Yes,
I was fearful. He'd been whining about he wanted to go investigating for his birthday. So thank goodness,
Thank goodness for Bob.
That's right. And I see you over there, Bob, but my comments are going through YouTube. So I did not answer you. But again, huge kudos to them for making that Friday night investigation happen. And
yes, I was very honored. I was thankful that he got this going. So that was nice. But before we get our guest on, I want to go. We have some really cool guests coming up that we've already got booked. And tonight we have Kara Phillip, which look forward to talking to her. We have FHT Paranormal, Josh and Megan. Then we have Jill Shelley. She's actually an investigator. She has some venues that she owns. We have Brian Fuller. We have Michael, and I butcher his name, but Gagliano. Then we have Area 13 Project. Now, you got to stay tuned for that one. I'm not going to share. Area 13 Project. Is it aliens? It's a big topic right now, right? In social media and the news. And then March 4th, we have Cody and Satori. So I look forward to them. And let's just don't wait any longer. Let's just get Kara in. Let me bring her into the show. Hello there. Good evening.
Hi. How you doing?
We are doing fantastic. How are you this evening?
I'm good.
Great. Well, welcome to All Things Creepy. Thank you for coming on to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I love to talk. My wife just sits back. She chimes in when she wants to. She's got the Jersey. She's from Jersey. So when she gives me the eye, like, hey, let me talk, I'm like, okay.
You need to talk more. And I'm like, I don't have the chance. No one shuts up. So
yeah,
I'll do my best.
Yeah. And, I've done a podcast many years. We did before. And there for about 4 or 5 years, we didn't do a podcast. And I missed it. And it's like part of, it's like paranormal. It's like, okay, I see these people when they're out doing their investigations. I'll shoot, comment on their post or something. But then it's like, I miss talking to them. So I'd like to have them come on the show. And we started it back again August of last year. And I'm glad. So it's took off. And so, yeah, we've had some great guests. Got some great. That's all we want is just awesome people. So
I agree. That's why when I started being on a podcast, it was kind of a surprise to me. It was just kind of a fluke and, like weird little turn in my life. It was like a COVID. I literally had COVID and I just said yes to a message that I never would have. I didn't, 3 weeks prior when I wasn't bored out of my mind and sick. And so here I was suddenly on a podcast, which was awesome. I was so excited. And I love it now. I love getting to talk to people. That's what
It
I
is. It's
love.
it's fantastic. I mean, it's like we all share the same interest and
Mhm.
getting into depth of how people see it different. Um, like I looked up some stuff on you and I'm going to just dive straight in this, but we're going to pull right
Sure.
back out because I don't want to go into it. But I just love this saying about something that you're connected with, History Alive. It's your team.
Yeah.
Okay. And I like to dig and look for the crazy things, but I love this saying: inside the walls and on the grounds of our country's most historical sites are stories waiting to be told. I
Yeah,
love
I love it too.
history isn't always left in the past. Sometimes it's alive right in front of us. That gives me goosebumps. I love that
Yeah.
right there because I'm a big history buff. So that's what got me intrigued more into paranormal, is
Mhm.
because I mean, we all had to go through history in school.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, I can actually talk to some of these people.
The interacting and that it is alive. It's funny now that I don't I started talking about the show, I don't know if I said, "Yeah, history's alive," but now when I say it, I'm like, "Oh, am I
I
doing
know,
that on
right?
purpose?" But no, I found the paranormal just on my own, as a kid who didn't have a ghost in their house growing up and stories about that, right? So
Yep.
that was just part of my life. It was normal, the paranormal. And as a teenager going to Bachelor's Grove at night, that was the fun thing to do. So this was normal. And then I started getting more involved in history, things with history and being fascinated with it through your life, you're interested in the history. And eventually in my own life, it came together. So when I found, when I was approached with this opportunity to be a part of this team for this show, I was like, that's exactly it. To me, it is just interacting like they're
Mhm.
here. And that's what an honor, right? To actually
Oh,
that we get to do
absolutely.
that.
Just to be that person, that in between person, as
Mhm.
you are talking to the other side and sharing it with the world, what you're
Yeah.
experiencing, to people that are skeptic, people that
Mhm.
don't believe, people that have never thought about it. But then when they hear what you're saying, everybody carries a phone. So they're starting to look this
Mhm.
stuff up and you're sharing about this location and they're like, ooh, that is creepy because the stories. And it's just like, and I love investigating with skeptics. We do a lot of public ghost hunts, and there's
Mhm.
always a skeptic, one or two in the group. Usually it's a spouse that's just tagging along to come
Yeah.
with their significant other. And Patty can agree. I mean, we had one at a battlefield down in Kentucky, Wildcat Battlefield, and these people now they love us. That when we come and do events down there, they're like always there because the husband was a skeptic, and we took a break, and he came up and he goes, "Man, this is." I said, "What do you think?" And he goes, "Man, what I saw over that field, these shadows coming towards us, groups of them." And he goes, "Not just shadows of people, but like their rifles and muzzle loaders."
Oh,
And he says, "I could
wow.
see that from the moonlight in the." He goes,
Oh,
It said it like took me back to Civil War time when the battlefield here at Wildcat Battlefield was very active."
that's
And I'm like,
amazing.
"See," I said, "I love to hear that." I was like, "Yeah, we're all still skeptic. We still get those phone calls, like
Mhm.
when people say they need our help. Residentials, number one. We're always going in first, thinking, let's just try to get them out of the darkness. Let's try to reenact this, right? Let's try to show them that it's not paranormal."
Yeah.
And then I think 9 times out of 10, when we can't figure that out, we look at each other, go, "Oh, let's open up the cases. It's time to pull the equipment out." And then they're like, "Oh, yeah," they get it. So that is what I like, because you don't find that many people that love the history and
No, isn't that
paranormal.
weird? I to me and like my group of friends that I really kind of came at this point in my life into the paranormal with, it was always about the history and about the site. And so, as the priority and preserving the site and preserving the history and bringing a voice to the history. And it was interesting to me, I don't, and I don't know how many individuals don't feel like it's about the history, that it's about the paranormal, probably plenty. I don't know. But it's interesting to me that people have that attitude, like they'll get, negative feelings about the paranormal community, because to me and my friends, my friends in real life that I've had for a long time and volunteered with and done all of this, and then the History Alive team, everybody is very respectful of the site and the history. And it's so it's so unfortunate when people have those negative attitudes, thinking that all the paranormal people are just there to capitalize and take advantage, right? And I'm like, no, we really don't want to hanging out and learning things. We're reading.
We usually walk in with black t-shirts, right? And they're like, that's that rock band group. That's them kids. It's going to get in here and terrorize everything up.
Well, and I think too, because, we spend so much time like sitting, right? And just kind of, so when stuff does happen and, these people you're with are your friends after a while, if they weren't already, I think there is that inevitable excitement or, scream, kind of glee, even that I think some people misinterpret for disrespect or not, and you're like, no, just after you sit in the dark for 4 hours and something happens, tell me how you'd react. This is what we're looking for.
Exactly. I tell people, my little thing is like, if they're interested in the paranormal and they want to do what we do, I was like, well, it's like fishing. You put your hook on your hook and you sit there and you wait. Mm-hmm. Things aren't going to jump on that hook right away. Just like ghosts aren't going to just jump out and start speaking to us right away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I said, and we go into these buildings sometime and we don't get anything. It takes us forever to get something.
Right.
Because I was like, think of this. We're stepping back in time into history. So when I walk in there and I've got a digital recorder, they're like, what is that? I'm like, whoa, he's going to hurt me. And, we were talking to Larry Eisler. Right? He investigates totally different. Mm-hmm. And I like his techniques. And so I did that over the week at Old Blackford County Jail in Indiana. And it worked. So, you learn something from people. And
I love just going with other people. Even when I first, met this group that I'm with now for the show, they're like, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, honestly, you guys, I just want to, call me a blank slate. I just want to learn from you guys and have that experience because that's so much more interesting to me than saying, watch out, it's my way. That's lame and
here's
boring.
My camera. I'm ready for my YouTube. I got my recorder.
So much more interesting to be like, what do you want to do? Well, let me learn from you, because that's why I'm here. I can go have my own experiences by myself, but that's not fun. And, but it's fun to be with other people in that interaction and learning from them and and share the experience, and be a little bit more collaborative.
We all use the equipment, but people use it different.
Yeah.
Because, just like the K2, people use it in so many different ways. And it's like, you've got all of these technology pieces of equipment out there, great inventors that's building this stuff across the board. But you've got like the Oviluses, you've got the ghost boxes. You've got, the, it's behind me, but I can't remember the name. The yes, no box, excuse me. What is it?
The Epic box.
Yes. Oh. You put all of those together, and if you can gather information from each one at the same, that's phenomenal.
Yeah. And my team member now, Pete Greist, he teaches, he has a group, I should say teaches, but he does teach. He has a group that he goes with the high schoolers and teaches them about ghost hunting. So he has a whole table plus of things and a lot of doubles, of course, to hand out. But, and, for him, it's worth it to get all of the different things. Like for me individually, that gets expensive. And we all know that, so it's
all behind me right there.
So he, definitely it's fun other people and their approaches, and he, because of teaching the kids, he has all of these things and to teach. So it's so exciting,
It is.
so his technique is all of these things because he can, and that's part of teaching the kids. So everybody is just so different, and you get to have all these
Yeah.
different experiences.
And we use a lot of, because I've been involved in the paranormal since 1998. So
Yeah.
gathering all of this stuff, I know what I can use for public hunts, because public people that come in that doesn't do this, they're not going to sit with our high tech stuff like our
No.
PSP-7. They're not going to hear what we hear.
Yeah.
And that, on that note, when we listen to our audio, we hear things that when I give it to just a normal person, say, hey, can you hear that with headphones? I don't hear what you're hearing. It's like we come in tune as we listen to the audio more and more and more. And plus, being in a building, doing an investigation, we come more in tuned with the sounds, with the knockings, with footsteps, with the whisper, compared to people who would say, I don't hear nothing. Go ahead.
No, in those public hunts too, like I always consider when I go and I'm not, hosting it, running it, whatever, if I just go, I don't even consider it anything that I'm gonna find anything, really have any experiences. Because first of all, you're in a cool place and it's fun to run around and absorb. And I always think too, with the public hunts, you take people that never or rarely go into these cool but different situations. I don't even think their brains are in a place like to process everything that's going on. They're just not in a position. Not only a lack of experience with the equipment, and hearing things or interpreting things, but just it is too exciting. I'm sure you guys too. If I get to go to a new, crusty, smelly place, I
you get excited. It's like,
just sometimes there's a church that's like all closed up, but it's in the middle of town by us. So you can't, like, they're renovating it sometimes but people break in where I'm not going to, it's in the middle of town. I don't do that anyway. Don't
don't do that.
But just, you get up to the door and you take like a little sniff, you could just smell it. So, just abandoned building smell. So I think for people that never get to do that, that's so exciting. So the chances, you just have to work with things that are very obvious and blatant. And I hate to say like a toy, but almost, that it's okay if they get too excited with, or just lights up. Cause that's, I think, all your brain can handle that day.
Absolutely. And I tell people too, because we usually, when we do like our ghost class, we work with this historical societies. So, all the proceeds, they charge a ticket, they keep it because it's all volunteer, and they're still blown away. I can't believe you don't ever charge. And I work with this one since 2006, this historical society. And I'm like, no, I never charge for my services because it's about helping the community. And it's a paranormal research for us because we're so fascinated with the history. So when we have these people come in that's never done this, I'll hand them a mail and say, watch the top number for EMF, and I explain, and then the bottom number is your temperature number. But when they turn around real fast and it goes, they're like, did you see that? No, you're moving it too fast. But I love their expressions because they're having fun.
Yeah.
Okay, you need to really like sit that down, not just walk around and turn real fast when you hear something. Oh, okay.
No, and also just side note, like, God bless those historical societies for encouraging this, because I think I think paranormal certainly can and often is like the lifeblood money, for a lot of these organizations. And it keeps people interested too, so I think, and wanting to learn the history. And so kudos to them for recognizing that and respecting that and valuing it, because
that's how people always ask me. They're like, how do you get into so many places over the years that I've been doing this? And I'm like, my full-time job is I'm in the fire industry. So I'm always in buildings.
So you get to go cool places.
Yeah. And I get to walk these buildings where it's empty and they're like, go ahead, and then, now my nickname for everybody around Ohio and Indiana, they call me the ghost guy. And so they're like, I got a place, man. I just bought it, but I need you to go in and make sure that, tell me what I need to have inspected and all this. And, so I'm like, okay, cool. And so when I meet the Historical Society, that's where it took off, because when I met one, and we did in a little event, and we made him like $300, I think.
That's amazing.
And they're like, "Wow!" They were like, "This is $300 that we never had."
That's
Because it's charity, it's volunteer, it's yard sales, bake sales, whatever they can do to preserve that history of that building and the artifacts in there to keep the heat on. And I'm like, yeah. So they're like, hey, how about if we share your information to the next town? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Now this was back in 2004 or 5, and then it just took off. And then finally, in 2008, Jim, if he was on here, he went with me to Columbus, Ohio, to the Historical Society's headquarters for Ohio. And they wanted me to do that in every county in the state of Ohio. And I'm like,
That's amazing.
I'm just a small team of 6. But I said, you know what? I'm going to make that happen for you. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah. So I started every month I would have groups that was intrigued and stuff. And I'd say, hey, you live in this county, here, contact. And I had a list. So I was like, do this location. And then I tell people now that's getting involved is reach out to your historical societies, because you're benefiting both of yourselves. And
I agree. Yeah, that's
a cool idea.
There is a local historical society to me that would not agree. So that's, definitely a sore point in our town. But yeah, no, I think that they are, perfect together, the paranormal and historical societies. I think just a match made in heaven, but not everybody agrees, unfortunately.
No, because here's the thing. I remember when I first started doing it, you're running extension cords because you're running cameras and you've got your DVR.
Oh, they don't care about that. That's not their.
Oh, it's not. This one was.
It's not based in reasonable anything. There's no actual.
One of my technicians, actually, he was a tech. Equipment tech. He yanked the cord out of the wall when we were leaving, and it wrapped around the table's leg. And this lamp on this there was only like so many made. We were in the NCR National Cash Register, the person that made the cash register. We were in his
wow.
Yeah,
cool.
In Dayton,
That's
Ohio.
Cool.
And she goes, oh my God, she was with us. And I thought about that. And I'm like, man, if he would have yanked that, it would have fell and busted. And I would have been responsible for something that they can't put a dollar amount on.
Yeah.
So I went looking for insurance, and I found a place, and it got pricey. Because
how do you even, as an insurer, I think that's an interesting thing to underwrite. Like
it was, and
anything that the 6 of you could break. Yeah. That could be any amount in one night.
So what I did is I think I did like $1 million coverage. So it's sort of like a small business, but I wasn't LLC. I didn't do any of that. Just my team name. And it was, I did it for a year, and I was like, okay, this is just getting too crazy. And I just told everybody, be careful. Watch what you do. You're responsible for yourself and whatever you touch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, of course, now locations, they have the little sign-in thing. They're not responsible for to get hurt or anything like that, yada, yada. And I get it. So that's the best thing, is to keep that going. But
yeah.
Let's get into you. You're a host of a show as well.
Yeah.
Into the Obscure.
So it's a Paraflix show, and it's kind of the best of all the worlds. So I love having a show. I love getting to talk to people. I love being connected. I think without a show, I feel like it would be hard. I'd have to remember to talk to people all the time. And that would be, it's
That's
a great way.
Like, oh.
Yeah. So it's a great way to stay connected and stay part of the community. And I get to talk to people. I get to say, hey, do you wanna? And the coolest people come talk to me. Mm-hmm. So I love having a show. But what I don't love is maybe what you appreciated at the beginning of your long podcast break. I don't love a weekly, I think that's hard. That was a little bit a lot. And I didn't love not being connected to something, like other than just kind of my own group or whatever.
Sure.
So having a Paraflix show is the absolute ideal for me. I get to have a show. I get to, put it out in seasons. So I love that. So we're releasing season 2 right now. And it gives us a chance to really, think about our guests, kind of curate it and really think about what we want to do and make it what we want to make it. And it's always fun because of that. And I get like the Paraflix family built in and, I get to be part of something. So I love that. Like that's, I'm catching up on the Sister Wives lately, and I feel like I'm saying like, I wanted the family, not the, but I wanted like the family. I wanted everything about that. And I love,
Now, where can they find your show, History Alive?
So History Alive. So Into the Obscure is the Paraflix show. History Alive, we'll see. It's coming up. It's soon. I don't even have to go to these meetings, but I'm acting like nervous, like I have to. The network meetings are coming up really soon, within the next couple weeks or so. So I don't know where yet. So the producer
Awesome.
is kind of talking to. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Knock on wood and all that. But we hope we get to do this for a really long time all together, and we'll see. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
So it's fun and exciting.
Yeah, it's in that really like nail biter stage. It took a long time because it's such a wonderful show, between when we were like initially contacted about it and started talking about it and actually got in our cars to go do something as the cast. So from beginning to end, but beginning to doing things for me felt like a really long time. And now that we did, I was like, man, we got to keep doing this forever,
it's
all
like
together.
A rush, man. Yeah, it's fun.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, and it was really cool. It was a pre-2020 baby originally. It was 2019. It was really on its way. The pilot was done. It was moving forward. It was, doing really well. And 2020 hit and everything came to a screeching halt. And our producer actually moved from Kentucky back up here to this area. And when it was when he was in a position and the world was in a position to say, hey, let's try it again. Let's actually do it this time. Because COVID stopped it once. So let's move forward. Mm-hmm. And so he had to pick some different castmates, make some adjustments. And so 2 of the original cast is part of our group now. And I did not know them at all before the show, before we met on set. And so we were except like a Zoom call. So you're of course nervous. You're like, I don't know about these people. I don't know. Yeah, and you're like, it's, and you're like, I hope I like these people. Right.
Yeah. Hopefully they're not weirdos in the dark.
Yeah. I mean, like you don't know. And
you don't know,
and I trusted the producer to, pick good people. I loved I knew already, and I love the people he picked otherwise, up in this area. So I was like, I think he knows what he's doing. I think it's okay. But until you meet them in person, and that's Amelia Cotter and I, so we actually we're texting all the time, and we kind of were like, oh my God, everybody's so amazing and wholesome. I've said to her, I think I'm like the meanest one of the group, which I'm not mean. I'm very not mean. Everybody's just so wonderful and nice. And I feel like I almost have to be nicer and kinder and more wonderful. And I've never been in a group of people like that are just so.
Well, I have seen some of the clips. I went back and watched, and that main thing, yeah, you've got it, because that face, I'm like, yep, that looks like the RBF, and they better watch their shit around her. Because that's Patty. Okay.
Well, that's it. I'm used to I don't know. I work in a jail now. I'm used to you have to be tough enough,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, no, it's wild to me how wonderful everybody is. We're like, oh, it's just so wholesome.
When everybody connects,
mm-hmm.
The sky's the limit,
Yeah,
and
that was literally walking out as we were wrapping, filming everything we need to film for now, just for our little pause before the meetings. I turned to Darren, the producer, and I just, walking down the stairs, I was like, you have to, like, this has to work. Like, you have to do a great job now, because please.
It's all in your hands now, buddy.
It is. And yeah, like once we got there, let's
Yeah.
be honest, it always was anyway, right? But like walking out, I was like, I have to keep doing this. Like, we all have to keep doing this. So I think it's just an amazing group of people, an amazing premise, and I'm so excited about it.
Well, good luck on that. I wish you the
Yeah,
best.
thank you. Yeah.
We
Now
we need some new shows out there, right?
Yeah, no, and it's funny, like driving to our first location when we, Amelia and I were driving in together, and we were like, well, the meetings are so far away. We'll just kind of forget about it. No big deal. Like, we're not even going to get excited. It's fine. And now, like, that's all we do is be excited about this. And I'm like,
You have to.
okay, you got to like think about other stuff.
When you do
You gotta
your
not worry.
pitch and you do your sizzle reel and you do all this, been there, done that. COVID
Yeah.
killed it, but
So, right, like, yeah.
yeah. So some things are changing for us. We're going to do some things, but I'm working with UK more than I am US.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
we're just waiting, and it's like 2025 is it? It's on my birthday. 2025 is your year, and I'm like, all right, man, it's in your hands, dude.
No, and I hope, but I'm going to say I think that the world is ready for more stuff. Like,
I do
yeah,
too.
I think we're finally, I think for a long time, like, stupid COVID, everything changed, everything we did, everything was different. And, and there was a lot of emerging from it. So like, I'm going to do this now that it's over, a lot of that.
Yep.
And I think it finally feels like we're to the point that everybody's just back to, and I mean this in like a beautiful way, just kind of normal living. You're not like living in spite of that thing that changed everything. You're not finding your way.
I still haven't stopped using sanitizer. It's like, ooh, I touched it. Okay. Hold on.
Well, that's probably smart. I just had the norovirus all
I
weekend.
don't know what that guy was doing before he shook my hand.
Yeah, I was sick all weekend. So like, you're probably just being smart.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's time. The universe is, I think we're in good standing. The stars are lining up because, for filming, we've got so much new technology, and there's new ways of filming a scene in a room because these guys and gals that are behind those scenes, it's making those cameras make us look like we're magic people and beautiful. The face is smooth and all that. I love them to death because I'm like, wow, I look great.
How about, so that was for me with the filming, the coolest experience watching like a camera crew. I have such respect, and admiration. It's wild to watch them. Like, I love taking pictures with my phone.
Yeah.
I have, friends that are photographers, like, regular pictures, of course, digital, whatever, but to watch like them talk, like on set, talk about the lights, talk about, everything, all the settings. And it's just a different language that I don't understand because I don't have to, and I'm never made the effort to learn, perfectly honestly. But as I watch them, I almost like forget that like in a minute I have to do something or something is coming or whatever. I'm just like,
them, right?
They are the show. I'm like, we should be filming you. And
exactly.
It's like magic. So that's the thing too. Like, it's just so cool to be on the set and so cool to be in these, in these experiences. How lucky, to get to do these things.
I was blessed to do the one with Ghost Hunters when they did Ghost Nation. I took them to one of my historical societies here in Ohio, Buckeye Charm. It was Ghost Nation season 2, episode 2, and Unholy Haunting.
Cool.
And we were there for a week.
That's awesome.
My team were the Taps family for the Midwest here. And so it's really cool to hang with the guys to do this. But like you say, being on set, when you have the big dogs from the major networks coming in, and also the main dude for Ping Pong Productions walks into your set, and I'm like, who's this guy? Because I just see everybody as just normal people.
They're people,
and
yeah.
Jason says, hey, I want to introduce you to this so-and-so. He's the producer of Ping Pong Productions. And I'm like, oh, nice to meet you. And he says, I'm from Cincinnati. And I'm like, oh, you're right here. So cool. Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome to my little gym. And watching meeting everybody from sound to light to bringing in college kids to run backup cameras. They use local kids, so it gets them some credits.
Oh, that's cool. I love it.
Watching, FedEx pulling in 3 or 4 times a day, Amazon 20 times a day. And then, as we're doing the morning thing, and then they're like, come to you and they'll say, what do you want for lunch? And I'm like, I don't care. And they're like, well, no, we're going here and there. Then what do you want for dinner? And I'm like, you guys, I just ate breakfast. I mean,
it's such a cool experience, it's just, it's experiences. I get to do cool things in normal life too. I do, but it's just a whole different cool
It's a
thing.
different vibe, right?
Yeah, different cool thing. And
it is. And then, they're taking like days of filming
Mhm.
and they're converting it into, an hour show. So they're doing 30 minutes. And it's so fascinating to
editing, I think, is so cool too, because I could just go on and on with it. We should just get Larry Eisler on this episode because he could talk about this is his jam that I'm just like, obsessed with. And he even, so like plug for him and Days of the Dead and Tribe 3 and everything. He just today released his like video, I guess documentary, like 10 minutes of Days of the Dead and interviews he did. So Days of the Dead in Chicago is now doing a paranormal experience.
Nice.
So in addition to like that horror community, because there's a place in the middle, right? Like there's, and there can definitely be that intersection. So it's kind of like on the concourse, so people can, kind of dip their toes in and have mediums there and have that different experience. And I got to go this past one in November, but Larry was doing the interviews and, getting some footage of it. And it's so good. And it is so fun because I know him, like I get to see him all the time. We're pretty local to each other. And, but it's fun to watch him actually work. So like, I can't wait for this next Days of the Dead in March when I get to be there too, and to watch him film and to watch him do everything. But I am so blown away. Like Amelia and I did interviews with them, Amelia Cotter and I, and other people, Zach Wenzel, and, a lot of people we know and a lot of people I don't know. And that he edited all of that he took. And like, that's such magic. Like to me, I'd be like, well, I have 50 hours of footage. I guess this is what you get. It's all important,
Yep,
of course it's not, like I am, this is why I'm not an editor.
And it's like, you got to know exactly what you need, right?
Yes. And he could take all of that. Like, so not only to know the questions to ask and like this and that, and to, get the footage he needs to make it, to have that vision, but then to turn it into something that is great. That's, I think, and just to splice it just right, to do the right stuff. So I'm just having like a moment that I'm kind of obsessed with, like the producers, like the makers for a little while here. Cause I see what they do and I'm like, Zach Wenzel is local to me. I was just in his Project Limestone. I'm going to do an interview with him tomorrow too. But like, to watch how he edits stuff. I guess I'm just like having a moment that I'm like,
no, it's
loving the filmmakers, like the filmmakers, like I'm just like in that phase. Cause I think that's like a skill I don't have. And I am so fascinated at what they can do and how they do it. So I give so much credit to them. And that's why, and that's part of the reason too, like I'm such an advocate. Not only do I want my show to get picked up and to be on stuff, but I'm such an advocate for like this paranormal TV and having stuff, because that's, it's not just people in front of the camera or adjacent to it's like the people directing, producing, doing everything. And that's an amazing group of people too.
It's like, it's like going to the hospital and talking to doctors. Okay. You're talking doctor terms. You're not talking English, because the producers and film guys, they're like, they watch shows and they're like, oh yeah, they're doing this and this, I've heard it from friends. And I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? And they're like, yeah, the way he's doing that is cool. But what I would do is I would put my spin on it and I would do this. And
but they tell you they'll watch something and they'll be like, you did good, but he did this wrong.
Exactly.
And you're like, okay,
well, that's like,
tell him, but okay.
Yeah. I've been wanting to do my, when we go out and do investigations, I've been wanting to put them I got the editing software and all that good stuff. It's just now sitting and going through all of that. So I wanted to do it when we went to the jail, and Patty got me a really cool new infrared camera. So I was excited. I was there. we were all inside the jail, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get this thing ready. I set it up. Stupid me, I look at her and I said, you know what? I got everything charged. I got the lights. Forgot my freaking SD card.
Well, it was meant to be. You're just supposed to enjoy it,
Exactly.
like-
So we had fun anyways.
yeah.
So I was like, the next one,
no pressure.
So,
all
yeah.
meant to be.
So it sounds like, Patty just asked everybody that's listening if they have any questions for the guest. We'll just wait for some pop-ups. I know people's been talking through there. But yeah, you've been very active in the paranormal. And I see also that you were on Ghost Hunters. Which one was that?
I forgot which. Okay, I can tell you where, but I forgot which episode. It was Old Joliet Prison.
Oh.
It was, I forgot which season. It was relatively recent in the last couple years. So at the prison, and I got to do my interview from death row, which is my favorite place anyway there. So that was, I learned some things. So that's where I learned, I thought, like, all of the lighting and all of the support and all of the crew. That's where, like, I think that fascination was born, because I walked into pretty much my favorite place of my favorite place, so, and all beautifully lit. Like they used a bunch of different colors and stuff. So they did not go with like dark, moody lighting. It was like colorful and up lighting, which I thought was a really interesting choice. But by interesting, I mean like perfect. It was beautiful,
Sure.
But it's not what I would have envisioned, not what I would have expected from like shows usually. So I was, like, just gorgeous.
Totally
so
opposite.
excited to see it.
Like, whoa.
Yeah. It was like pretty, to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody thought it was pretty.
Rainbow colors.
It's not what I expected.
Greens and reds.
Yeah. And so just like the vision of it
Yeah.
that they came up with, that, I thought that was amazing, and I thought it was so cool. And I thought it was so cool to get to talk about it. But what I also learned, and I don't know if it was your experience, but, and I if somebody thinks I'm speaking ill, I'm not speaking ill. It's just something I learned. Ghost shows, I think we all know when you're taking your picture for your team or you're doing whatever, you're supposed to stand like this and scowl. Everybody, hi, Leah.
Yeah, you're supposed to be mean, right?
You're supposed to be. So why do we have to be mean? I don't know. Why do we have to be serious? I don't know. Why do we have to look like we hate being there? I don't know. So I always thought that was weird. And obviously everybody like kind of makes fun of that, right? Like
True.
People do.
Every picture you look at the teams, they're like,
yeah. So that's kind of the baseline for my commentary here. So here I am in my favorite place. I have loved that prison for
now, do you
good
still
chunk of my
do
life.
you still do tours and stuff
No,
there?
that's its own story. So, but
Okay.
here's this place that I love, and all beautifully lit. And then now I get to be on this TV show. How exciting. Everything is just a delight, here. Yes, it is. Is that where they came up with it? Is that why it is? Because that is very that's really funny. And now it's going to make me laugh every time I see people do that. That's really good. But they wanted everything to be very serious, and they wanted, so are you afraid to be here? I said, no, I love it here. And they said, that's not the answer. The answer is yes.
Oh yeah, because the people that are really watching it are not like paranormal people.
Yeah.
It's normal people.
So yeah, and you're
like,
supposed
no, you're not true. I don't like it.
Yeah, no, I'm like, this is awesome. You should come here. Like, this is incredible, is my response. But no, the correct answer is, are you afraid of it? Yes. The correct answer is never with a smile on your face, no matter what the question is. You are supposed to be scared and very serious and scared. And that was a bummer for me.
It was hard, I bet.
So first of all, that's not how I talk at all. Second, so literally when I watched my 2 seconds I was on the show, because editing, I see it and I'm like, oh, I could see how very uncomfortable I was. Like, I love it, but I kind of hate it because I was so uncomfortable. And it was kind of just like, it almost became not a fond memory, unfortunately, because it felt not honest. And so I didn't love that. And it taught me, because how many shows have we seen people, they ask, are you afraid to walk these halls? And everybody goes, yes. And how many years I like believed it. And I'm going, so every single person that has worked at these places that they've interviewed, every single person has been afraid. No, they haven't been. And so it just felt so disingenuous. And I learned that's not how, so that kind of shapes, hey, I meant to tell Nick, I forgot. Oh man, there was something about Al Capone that I was going to text him about. We have a whole Al Capone thing and he came up on something and I was dying. So, no, and I even told my husband, I was like, I have to text Nick Simons right now. And then I didn't. Oh, darn. Okay. I'll remember it and I'll have to message him. So, but no, so I learned there that like, this is not how I want to approach it, so like, again, like with Into the Obscure, not how I approach it. I learned with like going forward with History Alive, I would not have wanted to be part of it if I was going to be told I had to be afraid of it. Yeah. Or I was going to have to be super serious about it.
And just not be yourself, just be uncomfortable through that.
Yeah. And I get to just talk. And I mean, if I'm scared, I'll tell you. Like if I'm not liking something, I'll tell you. No, God, I can't remember the story and I hate it. Like the Capone thing. I mean, he's everywhere. He is everywhere. That's so what we do have to know about Capone.
Are you in Illinois?
Yeah. So the Chicago area.
You're in Chicago area. That's what I was getting ready to say.
So I am not only being serious, but being respectful. So yeah, like I think there is that boundary between, you could be disrespectful, that's for sure. But I don't think being serious and afraid equates with respect. And I think
totally agree.
That's, there's a line there. So no, so Old Joliet Prison is, as it's called now, but it's Joliet Correctional Facility, is decommissioned now by the IDOC. And that is where I volunteered for a long time. I met, some of my best friends and my current co-host, but also one of my best friends, Rob Johnson. And, we were all volunteering there, and not volunteering there even for the paranormal. We were volunteering to preserve the site and clean it and be able to have visitors and be able to generate revenue and be able to do all of the things. And because when it was left, it was, so 2002 it closed. It had been around longer than peanut butter and sliced bread. It's 1856 it got going. It was all quarried from the limestone. Like my cellar is made of Joliet limestone. So a lot of our stuff around here was quarried from the limestone, same limestone as the building. Maybe, sure, I don't know. I'd have to ask my friends. Because I cannot confirm or deny that. So it's a gorgeous, beautiful structure, but the DOC, it was closed up in 2002 finally. And it was never, they didn't do anything with it. They just closed the doors and walked away. So some water was still leaking in a spot and part of a building collapsed. They left they left the keys. They took out the guns from the armory, but like they left the keys, they left like everything. And I think they either genuinely didn't care or wildly underestimated humans, both maybe. So people started breaking in because it's not in an area. There's people like it's sort of in a neighborhood. It's very neighborhood adjacent, but it's also there's some woods on one side. There's like old closed steel mill. It's very accessible if one wants to break into it. Let's be honest, and it's not even there's a way. You could just do it, in the neighborhood. It's not that hard. So, so for many years, people were breaking in. So some things were filmed there over the years, a few movies, whatever. Dak Shepard filmed a movie there. I forgot the name of it. So things happened there, but it wasn't really in use. People were breaking in. It was getting worse and worse. And because it was still DOC property, Joliet couldn't go in and do anything. Somebody breaks in, the cops could be looking at you through the door, through a window. They can't do anything. They had to call DOC officers to come. There is another prison very close, actually, another Illinois State prison that was built kind of meaning to take, let Old Joliet close many, many, many years ago, about almost 100 years ago. but then they both were full. So they both stayed open, but they had to wait for guards to come over because it was still DOC property. Well, in that amount of time, by the time you get somebody to get in a vehicle and come over, and
You're
it's not
going out
that
the
far
other way.
really. Yeah, but you got time to get away. And then
Absolutely.
they're not going to chase you down through the woods. So it got worse and worse and worse real fast. Lots of graffiti, and then a lot of just decay. Buildings just start crumbling without that maintenance, right? So it got really bad. And then it was right after we moved to the area, actually. I think maybe like the summer we moved in, there was a big fire. Somebody set fire to some of the buildings deliberately, presumably deliberately. So it was really hard to put it out. The fire department couldn't access it. They were putting
Wow.
fire blankets over barbed wire to like get over the walls to like be able to put it. And it was a big, big, horrible fire. So you could see it for miles. And that's when they said, we got to do something. But it wasn't until 5-6 years later that something started happening and people were able to get in. So I was part of the group that eventually was in there cleaning it up. And we were there consistently every Saturday. And then that transitioned into the paranormal tours because that's it, like the historical societies by you figured out. It's a great way to get revenue, perfectly
Absolutely.
transparently. I mean, you have to do that if you want to be able to do things. There needs to be
Yep.
revenue. So they needed revenue and they needed also people to come and learn things, people to be interested.
True.
People are only so interested in the daylight for a creepy old place, right? But you start opening paranormal tours. The first paranormal tour I went was actually before I ever volunteered there. It was another group that was allowed in for a limited run. I didn't care a thing about finding a ghost that night. That was not even a thought in my mind. I was just so happy to be in there. So I think so many of the ghost tours we eventually did, people were just so happy to be in there. And I do not blame them because I was just like that. But eventually, through some administrative changes at the Historical Society, it's the museum that's heavily subsidized by the city, but it's a wild circumstance. The volunteers, a bunch were banned for a lot of alleged things that they put in a letter that weren't at all true. And it's been a really interesting situation. So some people were banned. I'm one of the band, and that was crazy for no good reason. And all in all, 13 people. It was like a purge. They just fired a ton of people, got rid of a ton of people. No real rhyme or reason. When there actually was an inspector general investigation. And the new person that's now the CFO that they put in, she was at her former job that she was, kind of excused from before she came to work for this historical group. They call her time there the lost years, that it was so bad that, her
Wow.
management was such mismanagement that was the lost years. So that's who they brought in, that they brought into a larger museum. So this way smaller situation was really crippled by her presence. And she came and did the same thing to come to this one. So yeah, they've really gotten rid of a lot of revenue. It was awful, heartbreaking. And I loved this place since I was little, getting to drive by, and that was for a lot of us. So no, absolutely heartbreaking. So that was a huge revenue. We actually, our group of volunteers is how they got a multi-million-dollar grant from the state for rehab, like because of their volunteer hours. So pretty much it wasn't long after they got that grant, basically, that I think they just decided don't have them around. They ended the relationship with the paranormal. They used to have a great relationship, like with, rentals and, tours, and they started canceling those. Now they made a, real half-butted offer to one like paraceleb who did a lot of tours there and said, okay, so yeah, you could come in, you can rent it, but for just, I think it was going to be like $6,000 for a few hours on a weeknight. And for every like hour after that, it was like another 1,000. So you couldn't even like have like a whole like tour, like a whole, like if he had people come and buy tickets, it wasn't even long enough to like actually do that. People would be like, that's not, I won't pay $50 for that. It'd be too short. So it would have been like, committing to many thousands more for a couple more hours. Like there's literally no way that it could get covered, like as a public tour. And I think they were putting like people limits. It was just so they could say, well, look, we made the offer and he didn't want to. Look, they don't want to. They started doing that in other areas too, like not just the paranormal. They really changed their outlook on doing anything. So,
Wow.
so they, are trying to say it's because they want to preserve history, but, yeah, no, but that's exactly what was happening. And it was, so yeah, there's a lot of, this is it is ongoing. Zach Wenzel of Blood Moon had Project Limestone. They got the city to like try to put a stop to it because they manipulated, we're saying some not so truthful things. The city watched it before the release and they said, oh yeah, that's fine. Please do. So they're really trying to change history a whole lot, like trying to and they've been known to kind of hide maybe inmates that have been there because maybe I work at a jail. I am very empathetic and sympathetic to situations. I am by no means is everyone bad that is incarcerated, like by no means in my opinion. And but they said them there can't be any negative connotation. So anyone negative maybe that was there, they don't want to talk about because that might show that people were incarcerated that committed crimes, I guess, at the maximum security prison that's been around since the 1850s. Wow. So yeah, they were really reluctant to actually talk about history and talk about anything that was found. There's great records in Springfield that they're not interested in. History disappears. Things get found in antique shops around here.
Yeah,
that disappear from the museum.
Same
so I am happy to maybe not be associated with the organization.
I don't blame you.
But I wish the place that I love was not associated with them. So I'm okay to have nothing to do with them. Like grateful, it probably in the long run, but I'm really sad to not be at the place I love. And I think it's a huge disservice. And we really, and then bring it back to the paranormal, we really got to know, even if not by name or, just really when we would go in, it always closes for a couple months in the winter because it's very, very cold and it's just a bunch of limestone, at this point. So even if you go in the winter, you're going to regret it because everything's frozen and slippery and very cold, so it's kind of fun for 5 minutes. And then it is colder. It is colder than anywhere around here because that limestone really gets very cold. But it's really cool for a short time, in the winter. But when you go back in, like when winter starts to lift in March, just in that like first go in, it feels like I always say, it just kind of almost feels like sparkly, sparkly popcorn almost, like because they're just like excited you're there.
They're excited because nobody's been in there for months.
Yeah, it's and they're they would be so excited to see us. Or it was one time I described it. So I friends with a couple of former COs. I actually have like a TikTok kind of show with one of them, Mike Johnson. We call it the Obscurity Maximum Security, where he tells the stories because he got to do guard tours at once upon a time at the prison and get to talk about his experiences with one of his former COs, a friend, one of his good friends. And they're just so, I think they're so funny because I love them, but like they're so funny and they bring history and they talk about history and it's a whole, who doesn't want to know the things that happened. Right. And, and so from their perspective, and they were silenced a lot. They were told their history isn't correct. There's a lot of rewriting history that was going on, or at least attempting to rewrite history. So I love that we've recorded the history, the living history. But I described it one time to Ron, who was one of the COs there. And I said, you could see it in the spring, like before we would ever go in, the building just kind of, because limestone holds all that energy, right? So before we would ever go in, it would just kind of look sad. It would look grayer. It would look, and things look gray in Chicago in winter, don't get me wrong, but it would just look not good. After we would go in, it would, for the season, even if I didn't go in with the first group, if I couldn't make it that weekend, you could see it would start like the stone looked different. It just looked different. It looks, I call it looks happy, but like just looks like alive, like the energy's there again.
Yeah.
And it's so sad to me. I get to drive past it every day when I go to work. It's just on my commute now. And that was at first really hard. I was like, oh man, I can't go in there. And now at least I get to drive past. I have not seen it look
Alive.
energized like since,
Yeah.
for a long time now. And it's such a bummer because I love the building. I love, and it's so sad. I'm sad for the current and past occupants too. I feel like they're being so disrespected, whereas like the current, management at the museum feels like to have the paranormal come in is disrespectful to them. But I feel like,
Mhm.
that we're honoring them, that we're remembering them, that we're speaking
Absolutely.
of them to them, that we're being respectful. And I mean, that was, whatever the quote is, like, it's um it's in a song too, but I'm sure it was said long before, it was in the song that I can't think of. But just saying like you die twice, like once when you die and once when they stop speaking your name.
Yep.
And I think to let all of that just die, that energy go, I think is so sad.
It is
But
very sad.
but
It's just
that's
like
just me.
it's like leaving them all behind. It's
Yeah,
like
it is. Yeah, I just feel like,
you build
you know,
relationships up with these spirits. I mean, it sounds to normal people, it sounds weird, but to
it sounds
someone that
weird. Yeah, right? Like sometimes when
loves,
I say it, I'm like, ooh.
yeah, it sounds weird, but it's like, to people that do this, it's like, it's emotional. It's sad. It's
It
like,
is. Yeah.
when we do investigations at these locations, and I'm like, if I'm communicating with a child, being an empath, I leave. I'm just like, this is not a place for this child to just be here by
Mhm.
herself. It's just, it's emotional, and I'm an emotional guy. So I'm just like, any movie I watch, I'm emotional. So I'm just like, same in paranormal. It's like, oh
Yeah,
no.
no, it's just and I think, and then I'm sad for me and my, everybody, not just my friends, but everybody that doesn't get to go on the tours anymore because they don't have
Exactly.
it. Like everybody that doesn't, even if it's a daytime guard tour, that they don't get to have that experience. I think that's such a disservice to the community and such a loss.
Yeah.
And I just think it's crazy that they want the city and taxpayer money to subsidize what they could have otherwise been making off
They
of
could have been
revenue.
making
I
all
think,
kinds of money
just call
if
me
they would just,
crazy,
yeah.
but yeah, I think instead of continually asking for taxpayer dollars to just, kind of disrespect history. But yeah, so,
It is sad.
but yeah, no, so yeah, money talks the end, but they keep getting city money too. So, and so they get to just,
They
it
get
doesn't
this free
matter.
money, and they
It's
just,
free money without
yeah,
actually having to work with the public and, actually provide a value added product.
yeah.
I think that is important though. I mean, it is business to
Well,
preserve
yeah.
these sites and everything. And or even right now, like then even another place that is newly near and dear to my heart, but Benton County Jail, like in Fowler, they're talking about tearing it down.
Oh no.
Devastating.
Anybody
I
can't
just
buy
get
it
to
or
go there.
anything?
So, well,
Have you,
it's getting kind of opened up. So, I mean, like it's an
okay.
old building. There's troubles with an old building, right? And the
Yep.
county is saying, what if we could just put a parking lot there instead or put
Well,
up
yeah,
some
because
storage
in
sheds?
my line of work, being in the fire, um, I love seeing the historical towns being rebuilt, but people want to build new buildings, and I
Yeah,
do see it on that side as being in the fire industry that it is a
sure.
lot more expensive to keep those going, to get those up to par compared to let's knock it down and make a parking lot and build a brand new building beside it.
Yeah, no, and I understand. I really do understand, when you think
But
of
if
the
it was me, I
finances
would
and the
say, no, you're going
viability.
to rebuild this one.
So yeah, so they are, and it's been being used like for paranormal tours and stuff. So my and a lot of people's hope is that it can be preserved, but like right, we're gonna need revenue. You can't just have these sites without
See,
having
there you go. And it's
revenue.
your money. Just like Bob said, it's not their money. It's the people of Illinois' money. It's the
Yeah.
town.
So that's the thing. It's so easy for some council people to say, sure, yeah, give them another $250,000. Well,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Go
because
ahead.
people
Give
don't pay
those citizens.
attention, right, to local politics. Local politics, I think we forget, like, and I'm not even trying to get political, like, with all this, but maybe I am, but on the local political level, like, pay attention to your local politics. We pay so much attention to the national and we get really upset, and rightfully so. I'm not saying like you shouldn't
Pay
care.
attention to what's going on under your nose.
But like the right under your nose, like this is like right where your property taxes are going to
Absolutely.
things. And, it's wild to me that this is a group, in your town. I don't even live in Joliet, full disclosure. I just work there. I live very close to it. I live in a neighboring town. So it's not even, but I see what they're doing. And it's so sad to me that the residents just say, well, whatever, it's corrupt. And they're not wrong. But like pay attention. You're electing your neighbors to like then make these decisions with your money as they're going to be raising taxes. Like they talk about it all the time, like the taxes that they're raising for stuff. Like I don't know if the $250,000 grant that they keep, getting over and over and over again frequently, is cutting into their taxes, but it can't help.
It can't, no.
And, for an organization that could otherwise actually be good stewards of their money and raise their own money a little bit. But why? When the city council's just going to give the money, like, why would you bother? So
that is very true.
So yeah. So like, even so I'm a big advocate. You're just 2 hours away. Oh, why don't we hang out more? I don't know. He's busy. I'm busy.
It's just like everybody's got their things. It's so hard, when you tell people, hey, we should do this, we should have dinner.
And it is. No, it's so hard.
3 months away, it's like 3 months later, you're like, man, wow, we talk again.
So what's heartbreaking? So Bree, I might be like Bree, I love her. And we just don't get to see each other very often because we do not live anywhere close. So it's always just like a clandestine meeting, like at some Paracon. She was literally passing through because she had to this Saturday. And we had plans for like a month to hang out. Like as she passed through, I'm like, okay. And then I had the norovirus. I had to be like, I am going to get you sick.
Locked up. Yeah.
So yeah, no, I was so sad. Like we're just like texting all day. And I was just like so sad that I couldn't see her. So it's so hard because like all these adults with all these adult things to do, it's lame.
I know. I hate it. I want to be a child again.
I know.
Or I don't have to worry about responsibilities.
Yeah, and it just gets busier all the time. But also I am totally to blame because the second I am not super busy, I'm like, I better add another thing. I better do more.
She said, I appreciate the Louisville tries to maintain the old buildings. We have Whiskey Row where they kept the facades of the old buildings because they couldn't rehab the buildings. But we try to keep the buildings. Nick, I think the Silbach Hotel here as
I bet it does.
Tied to it. Yep.
That guy has been everywhere. Let me tell you. So that's like the joke. Bob said, he's been everywhere.
All toys. Bingo. And that's what I want to do in 2025 is I want to go to new places and explore new places and meet new friends. And it's just, but then we're like, okay, we just started, Patty's brother got us hooked into going to Aruba in November. So,
well, I mean, that's amazing. No, yeah, I'm trying to like go to more stuff, So like Days of the Dead in March, I'll be, it looks like MetaParacon in April, like all these things, but also I still like, and then hopefully I get to do stuff with History Alive, so here I still do have a very full-time job, it's salary. So like you work more than 40, right? And so all this stuff to do, and then I'm going to go ahead and finish my master's this year. So that's delightful.
Oh yeah.
And it's great in a year. It'll be great. But right now, but you want to do these things and you want to go to new places and we should really, okay. Nick, we should like write a book, except I don't know if either one of us is trying to write a book because I know I'm not. So but we should write a book of like the Al Capone tour, all the places he once was. So like it's the joke, but it's not a joke because it's serious. Literally like everywhere you go in the Midwest, right? Like
he's been there.
Everyone it'll be like, so Al Capone was here. So like it gets, after a while you're like, oh, here too. but the
or
man
you start asking that as soon as you go into a place. I got a question before you answer anything. Has Al Capone ever showed up here?
And they'll
Oh
say
yeah.
yes.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, of course. So he's everywhere because he was a busy man, clearly. I
He
heard
was a
it
bit-
first.
He was
Good.
a busy man back in the day when they just had Model A's and Model T's.
So then, right. So I can't even in like a normal 2024, 2025 car, get someplace,
No.
get myself peeled away. And here this man at, all of
He's
30 miles an
everywhere.
hour was everywhere all of the time.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
I've even
everything.
heard of him. I've heard of him a lot, like in Kentucky and Ohio, which is close, to Chicago. But man,
But,
I'm like, dude, he's been here. I didn't know
Here
that.
too. Yeah. No, and everything, like you'll be having a normal conversation about something. When I say normal, you're still probably talking about haunting, but like just not Al Capone involved. It's just chugging along, and then somebody will be like, "Oh, and then there's gangster ties."
Yeah.
And yeah, so you're saying this is the whole like we had a whole like evening in Wisconsin doing this, and it was hilarious. So
That is true.
but yeah, he just yeah, you get it. Yes. I have
Hey,
a
that
whole
guy's
video.
a popular dude, man.
Oh my God. So built the Sheboygan Asylum. So yeah, no, I have a whole video of us like going for like a long time. I was like, this is hilarious to me, at least to me and Nick. It's hilarious.
But he's sort of like the Waldo,
No, but yeah, you'll be somewhere and then they'll be like, well, and there's mobster ties, there's gangster ties, and you're like, oh yeah, tell me more. And then before you know it, they're bringing up Al Capone and you're like, nobody was talking about him. Like we had a perfectly good day without the man.
Him, but bam,
nobody said anything about him. And then here we go. And the wild thing with as obsessed as everyone is about him in inner area, his grave is really like not that it's what's interesting about his grave. I would have thought it was going to be something far more interesting. I don't know what I thought. It's real normal.
Is it really?
It's like
Just
right on a road.
Little, nothing outstanding.
It's like a family thing, but
yeah.
I don't know. I think I pictured like the Anheuser-Busch Mausoleum or something.
Yeah.
Something. It's an Italian cemetery. It's a Catholic cemetery. It's actually really close to the road, which is weird to me. I would have thought it would be further in.
Sure.
There are way more interesting or, notable sites, graves
around
and monuments all through the cemetery. And just here's Al Capone. But then I was at a totally unrelated event. I was at Honor Flight, my first Honor Flight I got to go to. And somebody, for some reason, it was weird, brought up that Al Capone used to be buried someplace else and then was moved. I was like, why are you talking to me about Al Capone and his grave? But also tell me more. This is really interesting. Like they out of nowhere felt the need to tell me about an Al Capone thing.
Maybe that's your call.
I was at Midway Airport and they just like told me about where his grave used to be at the other cemetery. And I was like, I never knew that. So that's really fascinating. But why were you called to tell me this? Like, why me? And why right now?
Not him, but another mobster in Beaver Creek State Park up on Route 1 along the Ohio River on the east side of Ohio, northeast Ohio is the park. And inside the park is the original farmhouse where Pretty Boy Floyd got shot down. And we got to investigate. You can go investigate it.
That's cool.
You can rent the park through the park rangers, and they come and they'll open the doors to like several locations in this park. You get to camp there at the park.
That's really cool.
What's fascinating about it is what I thought when we were all setting up our tents before we started investigating. You had to walk like maybe a quarter of a mile little trail from your parking lot to where we set up camp because there's a little creek that runs through there and there's a waterfall. It's a beautiful area.
Sounds
and I'm like, guys, I don't know if you've noticed, but every time I walk back and forth from the car, when I'm at the car, the birds are whistling and everything. But as soon as I hit the woods and then I come into this area along the river, you hear nothing.
Huh.
It was fascinating. I'm like, so everybody started to see that after we were there 2 nights and I'm like, this is weird. And then the second night we went for dinner and we was like, let's just do like a hobo dinner. Let's just camp and do the fire thing. And half of the people, and I didn't get it, but I did get a cool audio of a woman. They saw her walk past us, like she just totally ignored us. And I'm like, okay,
That's really interesting.
Yeah, this is cool. So I was like, let's just stay right here.
Also, I flipped to the comments.
There you go, dude.
Saw that and started laughing. That's season 2, Nick. Let's do it.
Hey, Nick, what is that? You're going to shoot me. You had that device on 28 Days. You was doing it manually. It's slipping my mind, Patty. I want one of those. It's not the Tesla coil.
Was it an Aaron
had it on the
Thompson
table there, and that
invention?
in 28 Days he was sitting there, and I think he was the one messing with it.
Did Aaron G.
It was like an
invent it?
EM pump, but he was doing it manually. I know I wasn't drinking when I watched that.
Electrostatic generator, $140 on Amazon.
Is that what it
He
was?
says, yeah, I'm reading his comment. I don't know that.
Oh, there it is. Okay, I didn't even see that. Yes.
I learned how to go
I
to
need
the
to
public
write that
comments.
down. Yeah. Or send me a picture of it if you don't mind.
Jeez, you don't need to buy anything else on Amazon.
Look, she chimes
Oh,
in
that's
when I.
me.
No, there was a half a second of silence, so I just,
She saw me
took
pick
the-
the pen up, and she was like, "Oh, I better chime in."
yeah.
We're talking about ordering on Amazon. I know, stop it.
Austin Powers had
Hey,
a
that's
hand
me.
up too. Thanks, Nick. Yeah, that's what I want. Because we use, I'm one of the guys. Well, let me tell you this. Let me go back. When I first started getting into the paranormal, it wasn't normal. Mine was not a normal. Like I saw something growing up, and then was fascinated. No, I lost 2 children. And that's how I got involved into the paranormal. My son was born with hypoplastic left heart, and he passed away at 2 weeks old. And a month after his death, I started seeing this 3-foot shadow. And what was very interesting about this little 3-foot shadow is I like watching TV in the dark. And so I saw this shadow come down my stairway in my condo, and it disappeared. Then all of a sudden, it was right there by my TV. And I could see it from the light from the TV.
Oh, wow.
And I'm watching this, and I'm watching TV, and then it just walked right in front of my TV, and it casted a shadow where I couldn't see through it, and it shot across to my dining room. I heard footsteps and a giggle. And still to this day, when we go out to do investigations, this little guy comes to me all the time. Now, I know he's too big to be my son. And then in 2000, my daughter was born, and she passed away in May of 2005. She had sepsis in the bowels.
Oh.
So that's why I love, helping people is therapeutic to me.
Yeah.
So at first I was never into the equipment. I was just wanting to help people. So then I put that onto other people on the team, and finding out that, they didn't know half of the stuff of what they're saying when they bought the equipment, or we would pitch in and buy the equipment. So the past 10 years is I've been so gung-ho with equipment because I want to learn, static frequencies, all of this stuff, and things are different. So, you've got different types of EM pumps. You've got electrostatic. It's just, I'm just so intrigued. And then I started building my own little portal box. And I'm like, you know what? It's just so fast. So that's where I'm going with seems like I just want to get more in depth into the equipment.
Well,
Even
and
though being an
I think that's where so I've always seen, heard, felt, I'm very, very good at shutting it off. I very much can shut it down. But I always could feel it. So to me though, when I would watch these shows or hear people and they would say, I feel something, I don't think I took it real seriously. I didn't give it a lot of credit. I'll give a medium that can come up with something, but just when they say, oh, I'm having a hard time breathing, I'm like, okay, all right. Because all along I'd feel stuff like that, and I just wasn't really trusting it. And now, years later, I can trust it for myself, and I can say, yeah, there's something going on. I'm feeling a certain way. but nobody else feels what I'm feeling. You know, that could be some empirical evidence, but it's nothing concrete. And I think that's where the equipment comes in. You can
Yeah.
actually, maybe it's a little more like science, a little bit more repeatable. Okay.
Thanks, Nick. I was told to see. I
Positive.
don't know a lot
Interesting.
about this. I did not know about the static generator. So it's the negative. Ooh. No wonder Ghost Adventures used it.
See,
Oh,
now that's why you need it off
yeah,
of
see, that's why
Amazon
I need it.
because it's
So we can have the
not what you
positive
already
energy.
have.
Yeah, then we've got the negative
I
energy.
apologize, Patty.
No. She's intriguing me. I didn't hear you, honey.
We are going to have to book Nick so we can get into that
Yeah.
a little bit more.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
he's just a delight anyway. Like, he is a good time. So I just think you should book him anyway.
Absolutely. And you know what? All the
Nick, you're committed.
Yes, there you go. No, I really enjoyed watching him on 28 Days.
I mean, really, like, he's a good time. I enjoy him. I like, you know how some people, like, you meet them and you're just like, hi, yes, it was great to hang out with you.
Yeah.
Good time. Like, the first time I got to like hang out with him in person, I was like, you're delightful. Like, and just we're I just get a kick out of him.
Patty's the same way.
You
She's
know,
like, Lee, everywhere you go, you make friends. I'm like,
like,
well,
you know, and it's one thing to like
open
make
for
friends,
us.
but like him, I just like, I truly like Nick. I'm just, you know, I blown a lot of
Yeah.
smoke up your something right now. Like, but no, I find him like truly like just, you know, like we vibed. He's funny. I think he's hilarious. Like, it's just funny. So yeah, you should have him on your show for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Carol, we've had you on here longer than we were.
I was like, how long do we do this
keep
for?
talking
I'm
and
having a good time, but like,
yeah, absolutely.
it's also a Tuesday.
I know, right? Tuesday, and we got to do the adult thing.
I know.
Work. Oh,
it's a busy day tomorrow. Okay, Nick says he'll do it. Just
okay, Nick,
when.
I'll reach out to you. If you send me a picture of the electrostatic generator, I will. We'll throw some dates your way. Yeah,
and then I'll be excited to watch it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have a good time. So yeah, and if you ever need any guests on your show, look us up.
Will do.
Yeah,
yeah. We're scheduling for season 3. I think we're already pretty like. I told some people I was like, we'll call you after the new year because it's so busy and it's already like the end of it's like the end of January. It feels like, and it's only the 7th.
Right?
But like it feels like it's already done. And yesterday was like the first back. I call it. I'm sure this is probably the opposite of what the church calls it, but I'm like, we're back in ordinary time. Like life started again. You know, suddenly I went from being like, I have nothing to do at work, which I did, but like the world stops for a while for that 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden I was like, I got so much to do. I'm busy.
It's like your book just got filled.
Yeah. Like all of a sudden, just like, I wish spring started tomorrow. Bob just said spring starts tomorrow. I wish.
I wished.
I kind of want snow. I mean, also we're like wrapping up here, but like I'm just gonna put in my
sweetheart. She's on every show, and she's like always. Yes, yeah, we love her to death. You know, my mom was sick, and I was talking about that one in one of the shows. She had to have her some surgery on her vertebrae, and so she actually sent a card to me, and then for my mom, and I was just like, "You're so sweet."
Oh my god,
yeah.
Lisa.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart. So
that's so
it's all and seeing and doing the shows, like going back to what we were saying, you meet so many genuine people.
Yes, I love it. No, I love it. I'm so honored to be able to do this. And I just think it's the coolest thing because in the end, like when it comes to like the paranormal or like the living, you know, whatever, it's just like the people. It's the interacting that I love the most.
When people ask me, they're like, "What do you love the most?" I said, "I'd rather deal with the dead than the living. I have so much more fun." So when I'm on that fence, when I'm talking to the dead, I'd rather lean that way more than this way.
So, you know, but like even the investigating, I love like the living people I'm with. I always thought like, you know, it's cool to be like, I don't like people. I would like say stuff like that when I was younger, and then I was like, nope. I love the crap out of people. I love people.
It's just the energy, you know, and just how people are. And then you get, just like, when you build your team, you've got a connection. So it's like when we're doing a residential investigation, mainly that's when we connect. We finish each other's sentences, and it's just like, wow, we work together. So, at the beginning of an investigation, you may pick up a piece of the puzzle that I call, and then that may be the end or the middle of the story. And then later on, it's like, you remember when you said that? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, okay, well, then now so we're sitting there putting this all together. And I'm like, see, this is what it's all about.
Yeah.
Connection, people, bringing the story that has been hidden and lost forever.
And I think that's the perfect closing.
Yes. See, just like tonight.
And
thanks,
I
Sharon.
think we're there.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people
you.
find you?
You can find me. Facebook is probably where I spend most of my time because it's just like, I'm old. It's the easiest. I remember when Facebook was new and I was like, oh, I don't want to join that new thing. And now, whatever.
Right.
But Facebook, Kara Phillip, and Instagram, I'm really lame at because then it's remembering to go to another thing, but that's Kara Phillip Official. And TikTok, is TikTok sticking around? I don't know, but TikTok is Kara Phillip Official. I don't know. Most of the stuff I kind of post on everything, but so Kara Phillip is probably the easiest on Facebook. And shows Into the Obscure and Paraflix. Follow Into the Obscure and Paraflix. And History Alive. Also just History Alive.
But like Bob said, Facebook is for old people. Hey, you zip it, buddy.
I know, but it is. So I do have teenagers, like a 19-year-old and 22-year-old, and they're like with the Facebook.
Well, they're more onto like the YouTube and the TikTok, and
it's just the other stuff. Even the Instagram is more like it's a different kind of part of your brain, I guess. I don't know. And
then what did they change Twitter to? What is it called? X.
So Twitter is X.
Yeah,
but I do not. I think I still have the account. I didn't cancel my account. I just took the app off because
our son, he's on that. So
I literally couldn't keep up. I'm not on Snapchat because I just can't do all of these things. It's too much.
You got all these apps on your phone, and it's like, God, here's another notification.
It's another one. So I'm like, Facebook is it. I am here for it, and I love it. So.
Well, thank you so much for coming on tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Getting to know you, and had a great time. And we'll have to have you on again later through the year to see how things are going.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah. Wish you all the best on it, and hopefully everything comes your way.
Thank you. And you have a good night. I appreciate you.
Good night.
Good night. Bye.